Are there closing costs with VA loan? There's so much confusion about this. So look, VA is a 0% down loan, which means there's no down payment. But whenever you buy a house, there are closing costs. So it's really important that you guys know that if you're using a VA loan, FHA loan, conventional loan, jumbo loan, whatever you're using, there will be closing costs. Now, sometimes I'll hear, well, Jen, I didn't pay closing costs last time. And that's very possible. And the reason you wouldn't have paid closing costs is one of two reasons, okay? Number one, the lender paid them for you. This was pretty easy to do when rates were really low because you could offer the client a higher rate and it would cover all their closing costs. Lenders are never doing anything out of the goodness of their hearts. Legally, we actually can't, Dodd-Frank. So you want to know that if a lender says, hey, if you work with me, I'll pay all your closing costs, they're giving you a higher rate than what you would get if you pay them or the seller pays them. So even when rates were lower, this wasn't a practice that I encouraged. And the reason was, especially, my goodness, when rates were in the 2s and the 3s, there were so many lenders going, oh, well, I'll give you 4 or 5 and I'll pay all your closing costs. Don't worry, rates are low. I'm very happy that my clients and I made the decision to go with the lowest rate possible. So that's definitely something to consider. Right now, as I film this, it's October 2023. There's no money in the margins to even do that. Rates have jumped so much, and I'm always happy to show my rate sheet to show you guys, like, is there money in the margins? Meaning that if you take a higher rate, is there money I can give you back? There's not right now. It's pretty dire. Okay, so right now, October 2023, I'm not seeing lenders pay buyers closing costs. There's no money to do it with. And even when there is money to do it with, you're still paying for it with a higher rate. Okay, so that's number one way they could cover it. Number two would be getting a seller credit. This is what I always recommend. If you guys watch my videos, you know this. Negotiate with the seller to pay your closing costs. Once again, this is October 2023. I'm seeing a lot of sellers pay closing costs. Sometimes a real estate agent will be like, oh, I don't think I can get it. You're working with the wrong agent. It's that simple. It's a negotiation. There's ways to do this. Let's say the house is listed at $250. You could offer $260 and ask for $10K from the seller towards closing costs. That's another way. Okay, so there's lots of ways to do this. You just have to make sure you're working with a lender and a real estate agent that know all the different avenues of negotiation so that you guys don't need to bring money in. Because as someone who does a ton of VA loans, like, the thing that drives me crazy is when I'm talking to someone and they're like, yeah, I really wanted to buy 3 years ago, but I didn't have my closing costs saved. And I'm like, oh my God, we could have gotten you in a house so much sooner, because I see so many sellers paying closing costs. Or, you're doing a slightly higher price. Yes, the place has to appraise, but then the seller's giving you the closing costs. So there's a lot of ways to negotiate this. So if right now, if you're not looking because you're like, I need to save closing costs, guys, you need to get pre-approved, start shopping, have the, talk to the lender and realtor about negotiating for closing costs. If neither one of them know what you're talking about, call me, dump them and call me. That's maybe my new tag phrase. But yeah, like, if you're in one of the very rare markets where it's incredibly difficult, and some of those markets would be like New York. New York can be a little bit challenging. It can happen, but it is a more challenging state. Most of the country is not like that though. Like Texas, all day long. Florida, it's really not hard. So it's going to depend on the level of lender and real estate agent you're working with. So really important that you guys know that. So here's the thing. How much are closing costs? Because that's usually the next question I get. Totally varies. It's state by state, it's county by county. But beyond that, the biggest thing that I see right now is homeowners insurance really affects closing costs. So whenever you're buying a house, you're paying for 1 year of homeowners insurance up front. Certain states like Oklahoma, I've been seeing policies that are like $5,000 on a $300K house. Florida can be very expensive as well. most parts of the country, like I was talking to an agent in Arkansas, and Arkansas doesn't have a lot of drama where they are at all. And she's like, oh no, our premiums have doubled. And I'm like, what happened? She's like, oh, well, these roofers are going through town and they're basically getting everyone to put insurance claims anytime there's a little hail to get a new roof. So the insurance providers are jacking up all the rates because of it. There's so much of that going on around the country. And I'm not blaming roofers at all. I'm just saying, like, even if you're in a state where you think there's no natural disasters, because of what we're seeing with insurance, you definitely want to get an insurance quote so that we can properly estimate your closing costs out. Now, important, so VA, we waive our lender fee at guaranteed rate. I can't stress that enough. That's not every lender. You know, I'm thinking of one right now that I think every single veteran calls, and I wish you guys would stop, but they charge 1% up to $3,500 no matter what. They're just like, that's our fee, okay? And there's not a 1% fee that a lender has to charge on VA. I can't stress that enough. So we waive our lender fee on VA. You know, closing costs are gonna vary, so you wanna make sure you're working with a lender who will go through it with you line by line. We do that on every single file once you're fully underwritten. But look, this is a shorter video, and it's just to let you guys know, yeah, there are closing costs when you're buying a house with VA. However, don't not get qualified and shop because you don't have the money for it. Let's get you qualified, right? Let's see how much you need, and let's work with a real estate agent that can help you negotiate that with the seller. It's that simple. So as always, I'm licensed in 48 states. Feel free to reach out. I'd love to help you with your VA loan. One last note, if you guys are watching this at the end of 2024 and rates are hella, like they're like in the 5s or something, best of luck getting your closing costs covered. It's not gonna happen in most parts of the country. So I could be wrong, but I do think we're gonna see rates dip next year. And I do think if we get in the 5s, it's gonna be chaos. So act now while sellers are still doing closing cost credit, while everyone else is scared of rates, because with VA, you can always do a VA interest rate reduction loan, which we'll talk about another day. Thanks for watching, guys.